So the other thing that is kind of on my mind with regards to UI is I'm kind of, you talk about the principles, I'm kind of, looking for Einstein was searching for that the unified theory of everything.
Yeah.
I'm kind of trying to get that, right? I'm trying to get a sense of what the variables are, what the pieces are.
Well, I've struggled with that too, especially because if you don't have that unified theory, then explaining it to developers becomes enormously
It's much harder, right?
Because developers don't like this idea that things are done by intuition or feeling. They expect there to be verbalizable reasons for everything.
Sure.
So the best unifying theme I've come up with has to do with evolution. I have a
Right.
background in biology, which sort of informs that, and actually that's valuable from two perspectives. One is that if you look at a particular design principle like inattentional blindness, which has to do with the fact that people don't notice what they're not looking at. It has to do with the way the eye is wired. The fovea has high resolution. The rest of the eye doesn't have high resolution. So you can explain that design principle in terms of just raw physiology and wiring of the eye.
Right.
So evolution helps in respects like that. But the other thing evolution helps me get across to developers is that the reason why they should care about this stuff so much is that the whole idea of evolutionary ecosystems isn't just for natural ecosystems. We talk about .NET being an ecosystem. And so if you have a business ecosystem, certain things are needed to survive in it. Then if that ecosystem changes in a rapid way, the asteroid comes down and makes things different, then now the things you need to survive in the new ecosystem don't necessarily map exactly to what you needed before. You need to adapt some new things. And I think the ecosystem that we're seeing now, as a result of all the Apple products coming out, all the touch-based phones and the rising expectations, I think the ecosystem is just different. So these guys have to learn to look at things in new ways.
Yeah, so when you talk about evolution, you're talking about adapting to change, and so you kind of use that in two ways. You use one to justify here's the reasons.
Yeah.
And the other you're talking about kind of what's happening now. We're in a state where our applications have to adapt a little bit to the new environment. Is that?
That's pretty much it. My biggest comparison tends to be the IBM ecosystem in the 80s. I remember when IBM pretty much just ruled the world. In 85 said that mainframes, minis, PCs didn't matter. They ran it all. They dominated everything. 10 years later, they were pretty much irrelevant.
Yep.
Nobody really cared about them anymore. And mostly that was because there's just these waves of change that these asteroids hit the ecosystems of PCs and LANs and internet that made the way they looked at the world no longer very relevant.
So it might be good to call it as it is. There is an asteroid that has just hit the ecosystem, hit it about 2007, roughly.
Yeah.
And it's in the form of touch, multi-touch displays.
That's exactly, that's the biggest asteroid. I don't think it's the only one. I think cloud's another one, for example. But I would say that we've already had the big one, and that was touch.
Yeah, I think it's good to call it like it is, because if you don't, you're kind of, pretending the asteroid hasn't hit.
Yeah. And you think
and trying to hide under that rock of the old way of doing things.
That things will somehow go back. That after it settles down, it'll go back the way it was. No, it won't. The asteroids change the ecosystem permanently.
Nice. Yeah, I like that.